Hello everyone. So today let us talk about hard disk space. Now, I I'm sure you know about it, but I use ThinkPad X220, and I think few years back, I upgraded my ThinkPad X220 to an SSD. So the SSD that I got for my ThinkPad, I believe it was a bit expensive back then. I mean, SSDs are still expensive, but back then it was definitely expensive. And I thought, okay, let me just purchase a 120 GB hard disk. And I know it is not really a lot, but because when you are looking for hard disk or storage, you want more storage, right? You would, I mean, your first preference is okay, if I can get 20 TB instead of 1 TB by paying maybe £10 more, then I should definitely get more storage. So I would have done the same thing, but when I purchased 120 GB SSD, it was definitely the one. I mean, money was not really the issue. It was more about I didn't really want to spend too much on a hard disk back then. So I purchased 120 GB, and I think that was the best decision because I always had at least 1 TB or 512 GB normal HDD hard disk. So that was definitely a big change because 120 GB is not really a lot. But I also switched from Fedora to Arch Linux. And when you're using Arch Linux, I'm sure you know that Arch Linux is definitely uh, very minimalistic OS if you install it from their website, if you're not really using any fancy version of Arch Linux. So I use Arch Linux, which is bare minimum, and on top of that, I just use DWM and ST terminal along with dmenu. So I use Arch Linux with the bare minimum suckless utilities, and it of course helped me to save some storage. So that was also one of the motivation because I wanted to keep my OS lightweight. But at the same time, if I look back, I think it was a good decision that I didn't purchase 1 TB SSD or 512 GB SSD because I have recently, not recently, but I think in the last 2 or 3 years, I have upgraded all of my computers to, I believe, at least 512 GB SSD, and I don't really, I don't really think I ever used even 5% of that storage. So if I look at my ThinkPad X220 usage after moving to Arch Linux or after following suckless utilities, because I think it is really good because it forces you to think about do you really need that service which is running in the background, or do you really need that graphical user interface, or do you really need that big file on your computer. So I of course made few changes to the way I work. I have completely moved my all of the document production to org mode. So I hardly use LibreOffice. I stopped using Google Slides, but because it is cloud based, I prefer to keep things everything on my own computer. I just have one folder where all of my files, my code base, everything is there, right? And everything is not everything, but each and everything, or wherever applicable, I try to follow text files uh, unless I am downloading some statements or some bills that need to be in a PDF format. And even for PDF files, if the PDF file is or the file size is big, I reduce it. So I have my own shell scripts that I run to reduce the PDF file size, and it works really well without losing the quality. I mean, of course, there is a quality loss, but not a significant quality loss. And I've made videos on this topic. So what I'm trying to say is that I only have 120 GB hard disk, and I usually consume 70% of it, roughly, sometimes 90%, but that is because of the videos that I make. So whenever I'm making a video, those videos are, of course, I make videos using FFmpeg, and usually my 10 minute video is roughly equal to 100 MB, which is really good, right? Uh, so basically, 1 minute is equal to 10 MB, and those videos are full HD that I make using my FFmpeg based scripts. And if I because when I make videos, I of course store them on my main hard disk, my hard disk which is in my computer. But I always move my files, my big files, especially my videos, every week to my external 2 TB WD hard disk, which is not SSD, and that is fine. And I have two of them. So I have this primary backup HDD 2DB attached always to my Ultra base, and I also have one more which I rsync every month, and and I think that works for me. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that apart from the videos, majority of my files are text based, and majority of my files are never really more than I don't know, maybe 50 60 GB. That is it, and that is also a lot. I'm trying to reduce it to maybe I don't know, 25 GB. I'm sure I can achieve it because I still have a lot of old PDF files. I still have a lot of other files that are hard to get rid of, and because I do have like a lot of SVGs, images. I mean, not really my personal photographs because I have a separate system for it, but graphics that I make. Uh, so that is usually in GB, not GBs, but MBs, and it is a bit annoying. For example, like today I was working on this Inkspace SVG file, and sometimes you need to export it to PNG as well. And whenever you're working with images, images are usually big as compared to text files. So I'm of course trying to. I'm always looking for ways to reduce my file size, or basically all the files that I have, all the files that I need. Uh, I have it in one folder, which I sync with my mobile phone, and not each and everything because I do have some like top secret things which I don't really sync, but I do sync my main primary files that are not really beyond. Let me just check it right now. So if I do a quick check on my files, I'm just running this command, which is du-sh. Uh, it is literally 10 GB, like bare minimum, like the files that I absolutely need with me all the time, only 10 GB. On top of that, I do have like a few other things, and that is, I mean, if I look at my ThinkPad, which is like my primary ThinkPad X220, like my primary device, it is usually in the range of 50 60 GB. That is it, and I think it is quite good. But the 10 GB that I'm talking about is something that I think, uh, and that is usually my org files, my code, and uh, and things that I always want handy because I don't really want my important files to sit somewhere else on a remote device. I want to keep it with me all the time. And I don't, I mean, I think using SyncThing works fine. I'm not massively happy with the way SyncThing works because it is not like rsync, but managing, I'm still, I have never really written my own scripts to sync files using rsync, but I guess it can be done easily because it is just rsync, right? And rsync works really well. But the problem is that uh, I do have like my mobile phone, I do have a Mac, I do have a Windows machine, and SyncThing makes it very easy. So I don't really mind running SyncThing. I don't really run it all the time. Whenever I feel like I need to sync, I just run the SyncThing command. It will then sync it, and then that is it. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have 120 GB hard disk, or if you have maybe 256 GB hard disk, I think it is a good thing in a way because it will force you to think, and it will also, uh, in a way, indirectly help you to make sure that you don't really mess up or you don't really keep a lot of unused files on your computer that you will probably never really open uh, for years. All right, that is it. That is all I wanted to talk about today. Bye bye.